Look at that. All right, let's see how that works. Yo, what's going on? What's going on? Yo, what's going on, everybody? Come on in. Come on in. I know I'm coming on much later than what you're used to me coming on, and definitely was not my intentions. But I wanted to get on here real quick. I always say quick. It usually lasts about an hour, but I don't want this one to go on that long because it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty straightforward. So as always, come on in, type five in the chat. Let me know if you can hear me just fine, if you can see me just fine. And then we're going to go and get this thing started. Once again, hope you all are doing well. Hope you all are sane, staying safe and healthy. Hope you all are doing uh, things on a daily basis that's going to improve your health. Okay. Once again, it's not all about. I don't want you all to be so stuck and inundated with the things that are going on a daily basis, so much so to you ignore your own health. Um, you have to make sure you're doing things on a daily basis to push back against degeneration and the disease progression. All right. So that includes exercising, walking, jumping jacks, doing things on the physical activity level. It includes drinking water, decreasing soda, decreasing juices, because there's no benefits in soda and juice. This includes you eliminating things that are stressful or stress invoking, inducing to you, such as social media, news, negative people, friends, or quote unquote friends. This includes that you decreasing processed foods. This includes you increasing whole foods, eating a salad, greens, all these things that are actually going to improve your health. Okay. So when I'm talking about these topics, I'm speaking on it because my basic operating system is that I own myself. And I would like to think that I'm talking to people who feel that same way. That is their core operating system is that they own their self, their selves. And and since that is my operating system, that's how I see the world. So that's why I have such a huge problem with this idea of mandates. So Kyrie Irving, you know, Kyrie Irving has been in the news for a couple of weeks now. And, for the most part, when it comes to sports, I largely stopped watching sports back in 2011, 2012. I used to be really big into sports. I played 2 years for University of South Florida as running back. And so, of course, I was really into sports. And I used to watch ESPN religiously. So, Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless, that was like my daytime stories, during breaks, class breaks, and during football practice, head to the house, eat something real quick, and I'm watching First Take, ESPN. So, but since leaving, undergrad and going to masters, really haven't paid attention to sports. I'm familiar with some athletes here and there, but for the most part, I kind of let a lot of that go. I let a lot of that go. But every once in a while, there's an athlete who would catch my eye, catch my ear, and I would kind of follow them on a very, like superficial level. And Kyrie was one of those guys who I kind of kept an eye out for because he said some stuff which made me go kind of check out his social media profile, and that's what I was saying to myself. I was like, all right, guys, he's a little different, a little different. Um, and so that always stuck with me. And then plus, he was great in basketball on the basketball court. So when all of this stuff came up about mandates and the NBA, and the very first time I heard Kyrie's name in it, I was like, well, that's gonna get interesting because Kyrie Irving, once again, this is all coming from a place as if he stays his course. But once I heard his name in that conversation about vaccine mandates and not getting it, I was like, if anybody is going to completely sit out and retire, or quit the game of basketball because of mandates and something he doesn't want to do, it's going to be that guy. It's going to be that guy. And for some of you who know Kyrie and his background and some things from the past, then you probably could have seen that as well. Um, and so now here we go to today. That is the situation. So the initial stance as far as the Brooklyn Nets, which is the team. So let me kind of get some background. So the NBA itself, as a corporation, has not made vaccines mandatory. However, uh, there are two cities, San Francisco and New York City, that has made it mandated. That has mandated that if you are going to play in their city on the NBA team, you have to be vaccinated. Not fully, you just have to have at least one vaccine. And if you're an away team and you're unvaccinated, that's going to be okay. So, there's several players around the league who are not vaccinated. Andrew Wiggins was one of them, but he went ahead and got the vaccine. He plays for Golden State, which is in California. And then Kyrie, along with Jonathan Isaac and Bradley Beal, and then probably some other players, right? And so, you have a group of guys, very small group of guys, like because 90% of the NBA, they're vaccinated, 90%, which is a very high percentage. So, at first they told Kyrie that, okay, you can play the season, but you won't be able to play home games. And so this means that you won't get paid for those home games that you missed. And Kyrie was like, all right, cool. But you have to understand that the NBA, the players, they operate under a union, and so you can't just throw different rules and proposals at them without them actually sitting down to the table and agreeing on these things. Like you can't just mandate to the union or any union in general. These things have to be dealt with and spoken about and agreed on. So for Kyrie and the NBA in general, he was going to miss half of the season, half of the home games. So he was going to be getting pretty much deducted over $300,000 each game that he was not playing in. And apparently he was cool with that. And there was just such this outrage from the media in general, especially ESPN, about his status and the fact that he needs to be a team player. He needs to get this. He has to do it. He needs to get it. If not, trade him. You need to trade him. You need to trade him. So you hear those things going on and on and on and on. And then finally, I believe it was Monday, they just said, Brooklyn Nets just came out and said flat out, Kyrie is going to be suspended from the team, or he's not going to be prohibited to play this season or practice with the team until he's fully vaccinated. And so that's where they're at now. And so now he's on the team, but if he doesn't get vaccinated, then he's going to miss out on the season, which means he misses out on millions. And so that's a pretty important part to mention. I think it's like 17 million. I see other places saying 35 million. Look, I'm not counting this man in my pocket. I don't care about it like that. But he's going to be missing out on millions if he does not get this vaccine. Let me just kind of remind you all of how easy it is to get a vaccination. Kyrie can literally roll down to his local Walgreens, CVS, or just a drive-through at a park or a community center, roll up his sleeve. They won't ask him any questions about his health history. Don't worry, they won't ask him about his allergies or anything like that. They won't try to dose it to his size. They won't try to make an appropriate dosage for the size, and they'll just jab him in his arm and he can go about his way. Literally, it will take him 2 minutes to get this. But instead of him doing that, he is going to forego getting the vaccine because of his personal reasons, because of his personal. We're going to talk about that, but because of what he personally believes, and that's the thing that's being missed out. The term they're calling him selfish. They're making all these accusations, but you all decide for yourself just how selfish this brother is, and like that's what I'm saying. Like, so think for yourself. So he could really solve this in 2 minutes, but because he has what they call agency, he decides for himself. He looks at the actual statistics, the numbers, sees where he's at as far as risk, sees where he's at as far as comorbidities, also understands that you can still get the virus and pass on the virus, and then he makes a decision that no, I'm not going to do this. But not only that, you all don't have a say so in my personal health. So that is his stance. But now we're going to read some additional things that just came out today about additional reasons why he's taking this stance. So let me go ahead and pull this up. So I'm going to read a couple of things, and then we're going to watch this video on ESPN with your boy Stephen A. Smith and the crew, and they have some pretty interesting things to say, and I want to deal with that. But as always, before we get into those things, I want to make sure that we are able to locate ourselves as far as where we're at right now, as far as this whole entire pandemic. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull up some stats. This won't take long. Just bear with me, but I want to make sure you all know that I'm not making these numbers up, that they're not fabricated, that these are actual documented real numbers. All right. So let me pull up a couple of things. Let's go through them real quick, and then we're going to move on. All right. How's everybody doing tonight? Sheila, what's going on? Roxy, what's going on? Jamal, what's going on? Franshire, what's up? What's going on? What's up, Sheila? All right, so let me share my camera. I'm sorry. All right, so excuse the ads, man. They're wild with these ads. So this is the current. This is worldometer.info. These are the current coronavirus cases as well as deaths in the United States. So currently, right now, and when I give you these numbers and stats and data, I'm just reporting the information, reporting the actual numbers. I don't take any of these numbers lightly. Once again, I don't want anyone to die from this thing, from this virus. It's all of it's a tragedy. But at the same time, we can't allow these things to make us incredibly irrational to the point where we make decisions and commitments that are going to affect us negatively in the long run. And that seems like the direction we're heading with the overreach and the mandates about our own bodies. So currently right now, the United States has had over 45 million cases in the United States of coronavirus. Okay. Out of those 45 million, 546,217 cases, we have had 739,762 deaths. Okay. Now, these are the number of cases. These are the number of deaths. Out of those cases, we've had 35,104,880 people recover from it. What does that look like on a percentage scale? This means that out of all the cases that are fully recovered, we had 98% of people fully recover from this virus. And unfortunately, we had 2% of people actually die from this virus. So I think that's extremely important for us to keep in mind. And so essentially what we're saying is this virus, although, contagious, and definitely unfortunate as far as the impact that it's had on us as a whole, I think it's very important for us to remember that number as far as recoveries, which is 35 million plus, and the survivability rate of being 98%. Okay, 90% is not a small number as it pertains to surviving this pandemic, this virus. On top of that, I would like us to also make sure that we understand that when I'm saying certain things about the vaccines, that I'm not making it up. So everybody wants to make sure they hear from the leader of this whole entire thing. So let's pull up the OG, the Garden. No, I'm not going to do it. Let me stop. That's petty. I'm not going to do that. Let's pull up Fauci himself and see what Fauci says about the vaccine. So give me a couple seconds. Let me mute this. And so the reason why it's important that I lay this groundwork is because, once again, when you hear people talking in general, not even just the people on ESPN that we're about to watch, but just in general, it almost seems like they don't know what I'm bringing up right now. It almost seems like they don't know that there's a 98% survivability rate. And it also seems like they don't know that the vaccine does not stop you from getting infected, and it does not stop you from transmitting. I think that's a very, very important thing for us to all know, because based on their response, they must not know. So let me go ahead and pull up Fauci, so you don't have to believe me. You can just believe Fauci. So Fauci's going to tell you himself. And if you're wondering if I'm a little tired, I am. All right, so y'all should see. All right, there goes the garden gnome. Okay, hold on. Here we go. All right, let's hear it from Fauci.
We are seeing that the ability of individuals who are infected through breakthrough infections, namely vaccinated people who ultimately get infected, that they are generally without symptoms or minimally symptomatic. However, it is clear that they are capable of transmitting the infection to uninfected individuals. And the data that they reported indicates that if you look at the level of virus in the nasopharynx of a person who's vaccinated and has a breakthrough infection, and compare that to the level of virus in the nasopharynx of an unvaccinated person who's infected, they're essentially equivalent.
All right. So what I'm saying, hold on real quick, y'all. So if you hear me make the statement that the vaccines don't stop you from getting infected and it doesn't stop you from transmitting, it's not me making it up. It's your fearless leader who already came out and said that. The CDC director also came out and said that, as she had to explain why several months ago she was telling people who were vaccinated, she's happy to announce that you all can take off your mask if you're vaccinated. Then 2 months ago, she had to come back and reverse that and say that you have to put back on your mask regardless of your vaccination status, because both of you can become infected as well as transmit it. It's not me saying this. That's the leaders saying this. All right. So I want to make sure we're clear on those things. So far, we have seen that survivability rate of this virus, 98%. We also see that as far as the vaccine being effective in preventing transmission and preventing infection, that's not true. So if you're saying that you being unvaccinated or someone being unvaccinated is putting everybody else in harm, we're going to need you to explain that, because what you're thinking the vaccine does, it doesn't do. There's one more thing I want to show you. Actually, I don't need to show you. It was Dr. Wynn, and she was just pretty much saying the same thing. She was just talking about the viral load, the nasal swab viral load being the same for both the vaccinated and unvaccinated who are infected. All right, so now we have that out the way. Let's read one more thing, and we're going to get into this video. All right, let's read one more thing. So someone close to Kyrie came out today or yesterday, and they gave some more information as far as why he's taking this stance. So let's read his stance, and then we'll go to the video, okay? All right, so report, Irving refusing. Did I share it? Yes. All right, for Kyrie Irving, it's not about the vaccine. It's about the vaccine mandates and the firings. According to a report in The Athletic, the Brooklyn Stars net won't abide by the NBA's vaccine mandate to protest employer mandates to get vaccinated against COVID-19 or risk being fired. Citing multiple sources with direct knowledge of Irving's decision, The Athletic reported that the star point guard has explained himself to close teammates and said that he is not against vaccinations per se. To him, this is about a grander fight than that on the court, and Irving is challenging a perceived control of society and people's livelihood, The Athletic wrote. Irving reportedly believes that his wealth and his visibility give him an ability to stand up against unjust control in a way other people may not. According to this and that, they're talking about the man's money. And then it says, Kyrie wants to be a voice for the voiceless, one source told. All right, so these are the new reports that are coming out as far as why Kyrie is doing what he's doing. So based on these reports, he's saying that no, this is about being a voice for the voiceless. This is about people who are losing their jobs and getting fired from their jobs because of their personal choice that they have made with their own health and not getting the vaccine. He's upset about the frontline workers who were heroes last year and now being fired this year because they have made the choice to not be vaccinated. And many of those people have already been exposed to the virus and recovered, just like many of the NBA players have already been exposed to the virus as well as recovered from the virus. So it's important that we keep all those things in mind. All right. So, one, we talked about the overall cases. We talked about survivability rate being 98%. Two, we talked about the fact that which many people think these vaccines do, they don't do. These vaccines will not prevent infection. They do not prevent transmission. Okay. Two, three, you hear Kyrie. Well, the reports are coming out from a source close to Kyrie, stating that this is not about him just being selfish and stubborn. He's doing this because he believes people have the right, the God-given right to choose what they inject in their body or have injected into their body. And he doesn't want to be a part of setting the precedent of the government mandating the medications or vaccines that you have to take. He doesn't want to be a part of that. And so since he knows that he has the platform, he has the visibility, he is now, this is what they're saying, is that he's taking this opportunity to make sure that he's the voice for the voiceless. And you have millions of people who feel this way, who they don't have that platform. They don't. And if we're not pushing back, if there's no active pushback, these people keep on going. They don't stop. They don't stop. You may be tired of them, but they're not tired of you. And so there has to be a pushback. And right now, Kyrie is messing this whole entire thing up because he won't play ball. He won't play ball. So let's hear what Stephen A. Smith has to say about all of this. Stephen A. and the gang.
Going to be able to participate fully. And that's where this comes down to.
Okay, so let's dive into this. According to The Athletic, Kyrie is not anti-vaccine.
And I will be stopping this in between because I have things I want to say about certain segments. I want to point out certain things. So I won't play the whole thing all the way through, and I will be stopping it. All right.
And that his stance is that he's upset that people are losing their jobs due to vaccine mandates is a stance that Irving has explained to close teammates. To him, this is about a grander fight than the one on the court, and Irving is challenging a perceived control of society and people.
She looked mad. She looked bad.
People's livelihood. According to sources with knowledge of Irving's mindset, it's a decision that he believes he is capable to make given his current life dynamics. Kyrie wants to be a voice for the voiceless. Kyrie himself has chosen so far to not speak publicly, though, about his views. If this story is true, Stephen A., I'll start with you here. A lot to unpack. Marcus Spears also here.
Y'all ready for Stephen? You know how Stephen kicking the doors, man. Kicking the doors.
With us, and Jay Williams. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here. We got a lot to get into, so we'll dive right into it here. Stephen A., should our position on Kyrie change?
Yes, it should change in regards to Kyrie. It should be even worse than we originally imagined. You know, I have to be, and I try to be, incredibly careful, fellas, in terms of I try to focus on what you do, not who you are. People make mistakes. None of us are flawless. All of us.
All right. So I thought that was interesting. He said he looks at what people do, right? And someone brought this to my attention. They sent it to my DM because they were also the ones who sent me this video. I want to point to a couple things real quick that I would think is relevant that Kyrie has done. And, this guy doesn't want to talk about what he's done because that's probably not how he rolls. Obviously, it's not how he rolls because a lot of people don't know about this. But let's just pull something up real quick from someone who is apparently employed by Kyrie Irving. All right. So this guy, he's a blue check. So, I mean, it must be real, right? It must be official. I believe he is employed by Kyrie. I'm not sure in what capacity. But here's what he's saying. He said, Kyrie Irving is extremely generous. Here's what he did. He bought George Floyd's mom a house. Once again, I don't care about how you feel about these situations and whatever happened. We're just reading out the facts, okay? So he bought George Floyd's mom a house, paid tuition for 9 HBCU students, bought 200 plus kids Christmas presents, provided 250K Thanksgiving meals in New York City, donated $1.5 million to the WNBA players. It's sad to see him called selfish for personal decisions. Yeah, so this guy goes on. Like I said, he works for him. So, this guy, apparently, it doesn't look like he has a history of being selfish. It doesn't look like he has a history of being selfish. So I think it's very important that we be careful about the terms and the labels that we're putting on people just because of isolated situations or one-time events. It's just very disingenuous to have such a superficial view on this guy, because I'm sure many of you had no idea of this little brief history. And this is only short. Like, once again, you'll hear a lot of things about Kyrie. But let's continue with Stephen A. Smith.
Made mistakes. We'll continue to make mistakes. None of us are perfect. We get all of that. But I've been covering the NBA now for almost 25 years.
Advertising on Google without ad protection, you have to try.
They got me, yo. The ads.
Every time a competitor.
All right, bro.
I mean, this is some of the stupidest nonsense I've ever seen.
Uh-oh.
Just flat out stupid. So let me get this straight. So if the reports are true, because we don't know whether they are or not, okay, but let's give credit to Sham and others who have reported this. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. Let's go with that, okay? If it is true, Jay, if it is true, Marcus, so you don't have a problem with taking the vaccine, your position is that you're going to sit up there and compromise the championship aspirations of an organization you signed on to represent. You coached Kevin Durant in the signing on to represent. You played the role in coaxing James Harden into signing on to represent. You're going to compromise all of that because you want to give a voice to the voiceless.
All right, time out. So Stephen A. is pretty much wrapping up everything that Kyrie said as far as him giving a voice to the voiceless in exchange for compromising the teams, the basketball teams. Now, I don't know if you all know much about basketball, but it is a game, okay? Basketball is actually a game. It is not real life. It is a game played with the ball, bouncing down the court, throwing it in the hole. No knock to them. I love basketball. I love all, sports in general. But we understand, as men, as women, as grown adults, when you have morals and ethics and you are adamantly against something, the quote unquote game or the job or certain things don't matter, or it doesn't matter as much. And so, yes, some people are willing to risk it all. And so Stephen A. Smith is keeping it tightly attached to the actual game, the game, G-A-M-E, basketball game. Whereas Kyrie is saying that this is about liberty, like this is about freedom, like this is about my choice to choose. This is about it being my body and my choice. This is about government overreach. This is about mandates for forced vaccinations that has a virus that has a 98% survivability rate. This guy, he knows who's unfortunately being negatively impacted by this condition. He understands that he is nowhere near being into those ratios, those percentages. Not only that, we're also talking about someone who understands that the vaccine itself does not stop infection, nor does it stop transmission. And he's also saying that this is about the people who have been fired, he believes unjustly, simply because they have chosen not to be injected with the vaccine at that time. So he's saying he's being the voiceless for those people because those frontline workers and those people who are being fired from airports or airlines, those people who are being fired from schools, those people who are being fired and let go or discriminated against for all of these reasons, they don't really have a voice. Like, you just get pushed to the side and you get, you're quiet. Like, nobody's going to listen to you. Like, what are you going to do? Go on your social media and complain? Nobody's going to listen to you. But Kyrie, a future Hall of Famer, which he definitely has what it takes to be a future Hall of Famer. Already he's putting a lot of work to actually have that. So yes, all eyes are on him. And so he's saying that he's taking this opportunity to be a voice for those who feel the same way he feels. And trust me, a lot of people feel that way, even if they already had the vaccine. You got to understand, a lot of people took the vaccine because you threatened them. It's called coercion. And to think that this is ethical, we're going to look back in time, like when 10, 15 years go back, all of this stuff is going to age it's not going to age well. It's not going to age well at all. The idea that we thought it was okay to force people to take medications or take an injection for a virus that has a 98% survivability rate, give it to everyone, regardless of their risk factors or their lack of risk factors, regardless of their age, regardless of everything, just widely give it out to everyone. This is not going to be a good look when we look back on it. But let's continue hearing what Steven says.
Really? And how is that going to work out for you, Kyrie Irving? You're going to disappear from the game of basketball? Who the hell is going to be interested in what you have to say when you have proven that you can't even be trusted enough to do your damn job? A job you volunteered for. This ain't the military where you were drafted. You chose to play basketball. You chose to enter the NBA. You chose to sign that contract as a free agent to go to the Brooklyn Nets. You chose Brooklyn as your destination. You chose the Nets franchise to represent. You asked KD and James Harden to come on board with you in Brooklyn to establish your own legacy, and then you leave them hanging. Because of what exactly? Your own individual principle. I am not calling Kyrie Irving stupid. Kyrie Irving, I happen to believe, is an intelligent brother whose heart is in the right place. But now you've regressed to an alarming level of self-righteousness. It not only makes you look hypocritical and untrustworthy, it makes you look what I know you are not, which is flat out stupid. It's the stupidest thing that I think I've encountered with NBA players. Like, you're gonna sit up there and not play and not take a vaccine that evidently it's not you. You don't have a problem with it according to the reports. You just want to give a voice to the voiceless? Really? You know what? I'm gonna stop myself, Molly, Marcus, Jay. I'm not gonna say anything else right now. I'm scared.
Okay.
I'm actually scared for the rest of the show. Okay. That was what I might say.
All right.
Go ahead.
Jay, before I come to you, because I know you have information on the subject, I just want to say, Stephen A., when you bring up the issue of hypocrisy, I think there's two issues that stand out to me. One, he wants to be a voice for the voiceless, but we haven't heard from him. So if you want to stand up, you have to speak out on these issues so we understand. We can't.
No, you don't. That's completely false. That's completely false. You ever heard of a silent protest? You ever heard silence is golden? You have no right to say anything to terrorists or anybody you feel that's terrorizing you. You have no right to say anything to anyone who is trying to force something on you. The idea of them having the right to get a response from him is ridiculous. Like, why do you think you have the right to hear from me? If I tell you that I want privacy and y'all are already making your decision, I told you I'm not doing it, I want privacy, that's it. That's it. His silence is saying millions of words. So the fact that you need, and that's one of the reasons why they're mad. They're extremely upset because he won't come out and speak. Now, mind you, they did not have the same energy for Jonathan Isaac. Does anybody remember what Jonathan Isaac said? You see, they know who to try to play with. And everybody has their different position. You got the speakers, you got the shooters, you got the hitters. Like everybody has a different position to play. Let's pull up Jonathan Isaac real quick. Because Jonathan Isaac clearly laid out why he has a problem with getting the vaccine, and they didn't have anything to say. Let's pull up this brother real quick. Hold on real quick, y'all. I'm just waiting till the ad go by. All right. So let's see what Jonathan Isaac had to say. And this isn't the full clip. This is even the shorter version. I would recommend you all check out the longer version of Jonathan Isaac speak about his stance. I mean, the dude was clear, concise, rational, eloquent. I mean, come on, like he made it really plain, and they didn't have that pushback.
Jonathan Isaac says he's not anti-vaccine, but he does not want to get the COVID shot, and he stands by his decision.
I thank God, I'm grateful that I live in a society where vaccines are possible and we can protect ourselves and have the means to protect ourselves in the first place. But with that being said, it is my belief that the vaccine status of every person should be their own choice.
Isaac is responding to a Rolling Stone article that labeled him an anti-vaxxer. He says it's a misrepresentation.
I didn't come to my current vaccination status by studying Black history or watching Donald Trump press conferences. I have nothing but the utmost respect for every healthcare worker and person in Orlando.
Isaac isn't vaccinated against COVID-19, but he had COVID and believes he has the antibodies to fight off another possible infection.
Did you hear her say believes he has the antibodies? Once again, it's like natural immunity does not exist.
The craziness of it all, in terms of not being able to say that it should be everybody's fair choice without being demeaned or talked crazy to.
NBA isn't requiring players to get the shot.
All right, actually, this wasn't a good clip. He has a clip on that same one. This one has too many cuts, but he clearly laid out why he was not getting the vaccine. He talked about how he had the virus last year. He has natural immunity. He's nowhere near having any of these risk factors that we see so common amongst those who unfortunately die from it. And so pretty much he looked at the risk and he made his decision for his personal self, and he's deciding not to get the vaccine. So I recommend checking that out. But once again, he laid that out clearly, and there was no pushback from these folks. They remained pretty solid on him. I mean, you have to show me a clip where they were pushing back. I saw pushback from Mark Lamont Hill saying that, if that makes sense to you, it's because you don't understand or something like that. But the fact that Kyrie is remaining silent has these people about to lose their damn minds.
Can't just, hear a story and we're not even sure whether it's true or not. And the other piece is that he's upset about people losing their jobs. But what about all the people that lost their lives during this pandemic?
Okay, so next we have to be careful with false correlations. Is it true that thousands of people have lost their lives over the course of this pandemic? Absolutely. Yes, this is true. But that's not Kyrie's fault. Kyrie did not have anything to do with thousands of people dying from this pandemic. That was not Kyrie's fault. To bring that point into this conversation seems to be very irrelevant. It seems to be very irrelevant. It also seems to be something that some could use to spark emotion in order to debate stronger and louder. Not so much accurately, but just stronger and louder, because a lot of times when people start getting louder and start getting more emotional, they're hoping that the other person goes into submission. And come on, like y'all have seen that before. Y'all seen that plenty of times. And that's what you see a lot when it comes to this coronavirus conversation in general. Once again, we don't want to see anyone die or die early from this pandemic or from this virus, but it is happening. And for the most part, these individuals have nothing to do with it whatsoever. And so her making this correlation or bringing in the people who have died over the course of this pandemic, this one guy absolutely has nothing to do with that. And guess what? If he was to get vaccinated, he still has absolutely nothing to do with that. So that's why I keep saying it's like they're operating off of the idea that the vaccines are going to stop transmission and going to stop infection. But they don't do that. They don't do that. You already heard from the guy himself. He says they don't do that. So him being vaccinated or unvaccinated is not going to change the overall fate of people who are negatively impacted by this virus. So I just want to make sure we understand that, because you're going to hear that being used multiple times.
Whether it's true or not. And the other piece is that he's upset about people losing their jobs. But what about all the people that lost their lives during this pandemic?
God, no.
That's another piece of hypocrisy. So those are the two issues I struggle with. I love a philanthropic heart, but it just doesn't seem to be consistent here, Jay.
I mean, it seems to be very consistent. There's nothing he can do about people who died from the virus. There's absolutely nothing he can do. There are going to be more people who unfortunately die from this virus. Once again, there's absolutely nothing this guy can do. He's not Superman. Oh, shout out Superman. But the people who have lost their job because they're being forced to get a vaccine that they want more time to take, or they don't want to take at this time, or they want to have their individual freedoms and they're being mandated to do this, he can actually play a huge role in getting this thing to change. He can actually have a role in making that change. There's nothing at all he can do about people who have died over this pandemic, and there's nothing he can do going forward. This guy, he just can't. He does not have the antidote, and we don't either. The vaccine is not the antidote. So once again, her saying that he's not being consistent, it's almost like, it's not true, because he is being pretty consistent. He's made it known that his heart goes out to those who have lost their lives during this pandemic. But at the same time, his heart goes out to those who have lost their livelihood and their source of income during this pandemic, while also being fully exposed to it last year. So you're not being consistent. And you're also bringing in things that are not relevant. Like, that's not relevant, what you just said.
Yeah. SA, I want to go back and dig into something that you said, an imperative word you mentioned earlier, that was legacy. And a lot of times as a player, you sit around and Swagger, you know this, you think about,
I'm going to fast
some
forward
juncture in your career,
through a little
what
bit
is
of
the
this.
legacy
He does say something
for
that's
me
relevant,
going to be?
but
How
this
am I going to be?
is not it.
Fight for people that are being mandated by companies. That Kyrie, as much as he wants to fight for people that are being mandated by companies to take the vaccine, how he decides to continue to elevate his voice, if that's what he believes in, if the report is true and that's what he believes in, he needs to continue to utilize the platform of the NBA to raise his voice, to continue to talk about that. Because he needs to spend more time thinking about, what is the legacy of Kyrie Irving going to be? The shot that I made back in 2016, or the shot that I never took, that if I decide not to take, will end my career and end my platform,
He spent a lot of
and
time
not allow
writing
me to have the
that.
opportunity to continue to be that voice for the voiceless.
The ad.
If you're over the age of
What
35,
is this?
this is how much earwax is trapped
Oh,
in your
that's horrible.
ears
I'm sorry,
right
y'all.
now.
That's horrible.
So see, this is why sometimes you need more time to talk about these subjects, because it's very nuanced. But what I will say is this, and listening to Stephen A. and UJ Will, the voice for the voiceless, right? We sitting here as three black men, and when I hear voice for the voiceless, I think about things that are being imposed on people that relates to underserving, relates to discrimination, relates to work environments that don't allow you to fully reach your potential.
All right. So pretty much what he's saying is that being a voice for the voiceless includes what he just talked about, social injustice and those things. My question is, what greater injustice is there than not owning your body? Anybody familiar with people at one point in this country who literally did not own their body? Anybody familiar with that? Can you imagine just being like a object? Not a human, not an individual, not a person, not a soul, just an object. Like, that's my chair, that's my desk, that's my person. And that person has no say so over their body. You will do in what I say do. I will give you what I give you. All that my body, my choice crap out the window. Now, of course, that's not where we're at with this whole thing. But you have to understand what we're breaching, what we're allowing to be breached right now. We're allowing the breaching of this door into that room of not having agency over yourself, of not having complete control over yourself. If you can't say no to a medication or an injection and get it at your own time, and you are being forced to, or you're going to lose your livelihood, what do you think is going to happen next? Like, once, trust me, like, all right, so this is 2021. What do you think is going to happen in 2022? What, you think y'all going to say no? You can't, you're not getting the vaccine? Come on. Like, I already gave it to you once. I'm going to give it to you again. Matter of fact, don't even front. Don't even act like you're not going to get this vaccine next year. Like, you're going to get it. I didn't give it to you one time. You wasn't popping off like that. You popping off now. I don't believe you. Not only am I going to give you this vaccine, but I'm also going to give you something else in addition to that. Like, how far are you going to allow this to go? If we remain idle on this, what's going to be the legacy and the fate that we leave behind for our kids and our grandkids? You sure this is the box you want to open? Like, you sure this is the door you want to crack? You sure this is the precedents that you want to set? You sure this is the one you want to remain silent on? Like, you sure this is the hill you want them to overrun? You sure this is the fight you want to stick your head in the dirt for? You sure? Because once again, my base operating system is that I own myself. I own myself. I have workouts literally in like less than 5 hours. I'm gonna lay down for a little bit, get up, and go get my ass kicked for workouts by a guy who seems like he hates my guts during the workouts, but he doesn't. He loves me. But during the workouts, it feels like he hates my guts. And I do this on a daily basis. I fast 90% of my life. 90% of my life is spent in a fasting state, probably more. Eat once a day. I eat healthy. And I didn't just start doing this once the pandemic started. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been extremely militant about my health. And I didn't need anyone to coerce me into doing this. I didn't need anyone to trick me or suggest this to me. Why? Because my body, my choice, my health, my responsibility. Whatever happens to me, happens to me. Yeah, you can feel bad about it. You can be sad about it. But at the end of the day, whatever kind of pain and agony I have to deal with, I got to sit in that alone in this body. And so since that is the truth, which it is the truth, it stands to reason that I am going to be the responsible party for making these decisions. I'm not going to allow you to make these decisions for me, because whatever happens, you're not going to deal with it. It's me. So, I completely get it when he's talking about, social injustice and all these other things. But to say that he's not being a voice for the voiceless, he really is. And this is going to be a real unpopular statement that I'm going to make, and that's cool. I don't care. If your revolution is funded by the oppressor, or the so-called oppressor, the one you're calling an oppressor, Bro, that's not a revolution. That's just fashion. That's style. A lot of what the NBA thought they did last year, they thought it was revolution. They thought it was sticking to the man. They thought it was standing up to the man. All of that was sponsored by the NBA. All of that was sponsored by corporations. And everybody was doing it. It was fashion. It was painted on the courts. It was painted on your jackets. They literally turned it into fashion. That didn't take courage. Like, that wasn't revolutionary. I know a lot of you all think that was revolutionary, but it's not. That was a sanctioned revolt, which is not a revolt. It's called theater. And so, in other words, that was a sanctioned theater. When you are actually going up against the system and doing the exact opposite of what they would like for you to do, and you're actually bucking the system, and everybody is telling you, just go ahead and get with it, go ahead and do it, go ahead, and you're like, no. Not only no, I'm willing to risk it all. Not only no, I'm willing to miss out on $35 million this year. Not only no, but I'm willing to stand up for those who don't have a voice, for those who have lost their jobs, and for those who this thing is going to continue to advance if we don't stand up. And so what this guy is doing as of right now, once again, I hope I'm not wrong. I hope he doesn't, I hope he stays, of course, but completely his decision, his choice, his life. But as of right now, what he is doing is what those folks thought they were doing last year in the NBA. You thought you were revolting last year. You thought you were actually doing something revolutionary last year. You weren't. That was sanctioned theater. What Kyrie is doing is revolutionary. And this video that I'm playing you right now is like the perfect clip to be played back in like almost 30 years, 40 years, when people are studying history and seeing, I'm thinking it's going to go out like that. I really believe these folks are on the wrong side of history. I mean, to mandate a vaccine that doesn't stop the spread. What? Let's keep on going.
COVID ain't racist. COVID ain't nothing that somebody said, hey, you need to stop getting people sick and ill and causing them to die from circumstances of having to deal with COVID-19. So I don't necessarily understand who are you speaking for when you say that these vaccine mandates, you're raising a voice for the voiceless.
He made it very, very clear who he's speaking for. Those who are being forced to do something that they don't want to do. I don't know why this is such a hard call. You know what the problem is, man? These folks sit up on TV and they are largely isolated by people who think the same way as they do. They sit in these little think tanks on TV and in their little cushy plush areas, and they all are fed the same ideology, and they all repeat the same thing over and over and over and over. And that's why when they get up here and they say these things and they make these analogies such as, you're concerned about people losing their jobs. What about people who died? And they think it makes sense because no one is pushing back on the crazy and ridiculous and the nonsensical things that they're saying. You had the other player coming up here. I can't remember his name, but he's making the correlation between vaccines and pain medications and how basketball players have a problem taking pain medications. Bro, basketball players and anyone in general take pain medications because they want to, and they want to be out of pain, and they want to effectively feel the pain decrease. No one's holding the gun or coercing them to take the medication. So all of these horrible analogies and all these horrible talking points, and they're up here every single day making these just bad arguments day in and day out because no one's pushing back on them. Like, no one's showing them that, I know you think that sound deep, and I know you think that sounds smart, but that actually doesn't make any sense, and it's not even relevant. And so that's what you see what's going on right now.
I don't understand that. Like when I think about a voice for the voiceless, I think about all of the issues that we've talked about, not only in the NBA. Stephen A., you've talked about black coaches in the NBA. You've talked about black people in leadership. We got this ongoing discussion about how the diversity and inclusion needs to be a real thing instead of being on pamphlets and things just being said and structured.
Now, these folks have to be careful because they're doing the double talk again, because they keep talking and then they end up undoing the work they thought they just did in their previous statement, which he's about to do.
In the NFL, I just don't understand this one. This one bothers me, and I'm with you, Molly, on something you said. Like COVID not worried about Kyrie if he voiceless or has a voice. Like I tell y'all again, I had an aunt that spent 3 months in the hospital, touch and go for 2 months. This is not anything I heard about or read about. This is something that I absolutely saw. Not only drain on her, drain on her children, drain on my mother, who is a sister, and the family. And not one time did I think that if somebody was to mandate this vaccine, that it would have to be a situation where you had to have an athlete stand up and say, I want to represent the people that don't want to take a vaccine, that are losing their positions. Man, these companies.
So once again, my heart goes, but seriously, I don't say this just to say it. Heart goes out to any and everyone who has lost family members, loved ones, friends from this virus, from this pandemic. That's my stance. I don't wish death on no one. But at the same time, that's not going to be relevant to this conversation. With him bringing in the fact about his aunt. Once again, Kyrie has nothing to do with his aunt being hospitalized. Kyrie has nothing to do with anyone who has died from this virus, and he won't have anything to do with people who unfortunately continue to die from this virus. Him being vaccinated or not vaccinated won't change their status. It just won't. So when I hear this being brought into these conversations, yes, I'm definitely sorry to hear about the loss. I really am. But at the same time, it's irrelevant to this conversation on the topic that we're speaking about, which is mandates. We're talking about human rights. This is what we're coming down to. We're talking about human rights. So the people who have lost their lives or are getting sick, but at this point, everyone who wanted the vaccine has received the vaccine. And so as pertains to protection against severe illness and hospitalization, they should feel a level of comfort with the fact that they have the vaccine. Like, we have to understand that when you're getting that vaccine, you're getting it for yourself. That's the part that people are missing. You're getting that vaccine for yourself. In order for your vaccine to work, it doesn't mean everybody else needs to be vaccinated. Because once again, the virus, the vaccine doesn't stop transmission. It doesn't. I just showed you Fauci's plain saying that. So we need to keep that into, we need to make sure you understand that.
Companies don't care about that. Like what? Who are you being a voice for? If you're being a voice for people that are not choosing to take a vaccine, that work for companies that are saying we want a vaccine mandate, that's the bottom line. That is their right. We work for ESPN. We work for Disney. We have a vaccine mandate at this company. And it is simple as this. If you don't want to take it, you will no longer have a job. Those are the consequences. Those are the things that you have to deal with, and you have to make a personal decision. Well, yes, it's consequences if you choose not to. That's the bottom line. So the voice for the voiceless, and oh, by the way, okay, you got a lot of people in this country that had to take the vaccine that didn't want to take to, so they could continue on with their livelihood and taking care of their family. They put that at the forefront of not deciding to take a vaccine. Kyrie is worth over $200 million. Hey, people out there that's not taking these vaccines, you stand on what you stand on. But the bottom line is, you ain't in the same position Kyrie Irving is in.
Here's the deal. There's a couple of things. Number one,
So let's say you have to read an incredibly long email from your boss that you have to finish before the big meeting starts.
To throw this out there, New York and California, mainly San Francisco and Los Angeles is the two cities, and along with New York City are the only ones with the mandate at this particular moment in time. I do not believe that will last. I ultimately think that that is something that would spread, no pun intended, and as a result, you'll see restrictions and mandates being handed down across NBA cities throughout this country. That's what I believe, personally. Even though some people would ask why those are only 3 cities with the mandate at this particular moment in time. That's something we could get into another day. You also have some people out there that are talking about how Kyrie Irving will have a huge lawsuit, you know, and he'll win or whatever. Shut the hell up. Ain't nobody trying to hear that either, okay? Here's the bottom line. What you went to last, Marcus, when you talked about Kyrie Irving has earned over $200 million in his career, probably more. Here's the reality. That's really why you're taking this position. You see, this is the kind of stuff that annoys me. And I remember I've said this on numerous occasions when people were talking about, you know, you got players that come into the league and they talk about keeping it real, being authentic and all of this other stuff. And I remember with one player, I brought up how he rolled up in the draft. And you rolled up in the draft. The selfishness also comes in here because you no longer have to be concerned about yours. See, that's where the selfishness comes in here. The selfishness also comes in here when you're talking about.
Now, so he's calling this, he's saying this guy is selfish, right? Now, I just showed you a little Twitter post from, you know, just a couple of things he's done recently, right? But also we read about why he says he's doing this. He's doing this in protest for people who are losing their jobs because of mandates. Another thing that's important to note is that he's going to be losing out on millions by not playing. Millions if he chooses not to play. If he stays the course and if he continues to do what he said he's going to do, this guy's going to lose millions. That doesn't sound selfish. Selfish sounds like, yo, just go ahead and get the jab. Like literally, it'll take him 2 minutes to get this injection. Go down to Walgreens. They won't ask him about his allergies. They won't ask him about his history. They won't do a physical exam. Just stick you in the arm and send you on your way. 2 minutes, and he can get his bag. So I think it's ridiculous to say that this is all about him being selfish. And then once again, Stephen A. is living in this basketball universe where all he can see is basketball. He's not thinking about the human rights issue. The idea that your government can force you to take certain medications and vaccines. And for those of you who think that it won't get to that point, once again, slow to spread, 14 days, mask, lockdowns, like all these things that were once just conspiracy theories and now forced mandates. The ideas of having vaccine passports, the idea of, you know, not being able to travel, fly, and go into stores, and all these things were at one point just things people were saying and conspiracy theories. They are reality now. Today, they are reality. And we're talking about less than a year. Those conspiracy theories turn into reality. So to think that you can say without a shadow of a doubt that it won't go any further than that, you are delusion. Like you're mistaken. Like it's just you're looking at this thing all wrong.
About leaving your teammates hanging. And all I'm saying is at the end of the day, when you talk about a voice, listen, Kyrie spoke to the media, Jay. He said it's a privacy matter. That's what he said. He had an opportunity to explain himself. He continues to get opportunities to explain himself. But he's saying, excuse me, it's a privacy matter. Respect my privacy. So what voice is he talking about?
But can I ask you a quick question on this, one, man?
Sure.
And I'm pro-vaccine. I've taken a vaccine. I'm double vax.
So
you got to wave the white flag.
He said that he's selfish. Doesn't he have the right to be selfish and do what he wants to do for Kyrie? He hasn't said anything. He hasn't. No, he hasn't.
Look. Steven's like, yo, I'm not taking no pushback. You sound like you sassing me, boy. You sound like you sassing me.
But he hasn't came out and said that other people should not. He hasn't said anything at all.
I'm answering your question. Your question. Of course he has the right. That's the part that annoys me. When people say he has a right, you act like us criticizing him is us saying he doesn't have the right. He does have the right. Absolutely. But he also has the right to be called out for it. just like somebody has the right to be real. Well, guess what? There's various levels of real. You can be real stupid. You can be real dumb. You can be real selfish. You can be real hypocritical. There's a whole bunch of levels of realness out there in the real world. Nobody is questioning Kyrie's right to take the position that he's taken. What I'm talking about is a person that loves the game of basketball, that's looking forward to the Brooklyn Nets trying to win a championship.
See, he's all about the game. All about the game. Now, this lady is talking about what about the lives that were lost because Kyrie's concerned with the jobs that are lost. There's no pushback to Stephen A. Smith because Stephen A. Smith is worrying about the game, like the game where you bounce the ball on the court and you throw it in this little hole. Like, that's what he's concerned about. Like, he wants to see how the season all plays out. Kyrie's worried about the jobs. The other lady's talking about the lives lost. This guy right here, stuck in the game. Stuck in the game.
I can't believe that you're sitting here, and then he brings up research and all of this other stuff. Well, damn it, it's almost more than 19 months that this pandemic has been going on. How much research do you need? We've heard players bringing up research and how they're going to talk to their teammates as if their teammate is an epidemiologist or somebody. There's certain things that are just ridiculous, and that needs to be said.
They crazy.
Why dating a young Latin woman is a good option?
What?
What's ridiculous is that we're talking about people losing their jobs, and there's people that lost their lives.
Yeah.
That's the part that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And guys, I can speak to that. My grandmother was perfectly healthy, got COVID, and I was in there in the hospital when she couldn't breathe and she couldn't speak. And it's a nightmare. So that I don't know how we're not touching on that issue in terms of him standing up for people.
I'm with you.
Okay, so once again, my heart goes out to everyone who's been affected by this pandemic, by this virus. And that's why we should definitely make sure we wrap up the conversation with the big question in the room. However, at the same time, she's saying no one's talking about the deaths. Ma'am, that's all they're talking about. You turn on these news channels and they have a death counter. They're talking about the death. Every day there's a press conference. Like they're definitely talking about the deaths. The fact that Kyrie has made a decision to take a stand on this issue and to think that he has to speak about everything, and if he doesn't speak about it, he doesn't have any kind of sorrow for it, or he doesn't feel bad about it, or he doesn't regret that these things happen, I think it's ridiculous. So yes, his focus right now, as far as why he's making this stance, is because of human rights, people losing their jobs, and that's his position. But to keep on bringing this back in this conversation on this topic is actually not relevant, man. It's just not relevant. And once again, I'll stop there because we do want to get down to the overall impact. We should ask some questions about that. So we'll get to that at the end.
You guys and all this, I've lost a family member. I've had COVID twice. I get it. All
right. This guy's had COVID twice. He is fully vaccinated. Jay Williams has been fully vaccinated, and he's had COVID twice. So I'll just leave that right there.
I just want to be careful when we start going down this road that we're going to act like Kyrie Irving being vaccinated or not being vaccinated is going to change the minds of millions of people. Like we start going down this road where we start. But I'm just telling you how it feels. Some people, Stephen A. When you start calling people stupid, or you start calling people saying that they're selfish, and these things start going all over the internet, that creates a different narrative, and people start fighting back against that narrative. I'm just telling you how it is on the other side, Stephen A. I know you have your thoughts on how you see things.
What's the other side? What's the other side? The point
I'm on the side of being vaccinated, man. I'm just trying to tell you.
I didn't say you weren't.
Isn't it, do you hear what Jay Williams is saying? He's saying, I'm on the side of being vaccinated. He's trying to let them know, I'm on your team, bro. I'm on your team. But I just have a slightly different thought that I would like to share. And Stephen A. is not hearing it. And he keeps throwing up the white flag, like, I'm on your side, bro. I'm vaccinated. I'm fully vaxxed. And Stephen A. is like, nah, you bucking the system. Let me get you back in place. Watch him. Look at his face. Look, about to eat him for lunch. And this guy looks horrified.
The point is,
I'm on the side of being vaccinated, man. I'm just trying to tell you.
I didn't say you weren't. We're talking about you're the one that took it there, Jay. We're
I
talking
am
about a
taking it there,
basketball.
yes.
We're talking about a basketball player who signed on to play for the Brooklyn Nets that has left his team hanging.
Yes,
That's
because
what
of
we're
his
talking
own
about.
personal decision. He's choosing to do that for him. And when you go through an unprecedented time in the history of this country, you have your own individual right to make your own decision about what you want to do for you and your family.
So
I just respect that right. I'm not saying I agree with that right. I respect
all right then. You respect the right. I'm saying to you no. I'm saying to you no.
Okay.
If you signed on to do a job, okay, and that's what comes with it. That comes with it. Now I can get deeper and bring up the fact that the president of the healthcare system, virtual healthcare system in South Jersey, was the one that personally took me to the ICU, and
I'm not disagreeing with that, though, Stephen A.
I didn't say you
but
were.
You act like we've had a 100% vaccination rate in this country since the beginning of all illnesses that have occurred.
You know what, Jay? Jay, you sound full of it, bro. I ain't gonna lie.
I'm not full of it.
We're not talking about.
We had a 100% vaccination rate in this country since the beginning of all illnesses that have occurred.
You know what, Jay? Jay, you sound full of it, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you.
I'm not full of it.
We're not talking about that.
Guys,
we're not talking about that. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about that. You taking it somewhere I wasn't going. We could do that now. Any day you want, we could do that. But what I'm saying is, we're talking about Kyrie Irving not showing up for the Brooklyn Nets after he got guys to show up for the Brooklyn Nets. And here you go bringing up all of that other stuff. We can do that. We can do that. But I wasn't trying to do that. That's where I'm calling him selfish. You know, like questioning his right. He has the right to do it. He also has the right to go to hell away then. Retire. Retire then.
All right. That's enough. That's enough. That is enough. So once again, shout out to Kyrie. I don't know if he's going to, change his mind or stand strong on this whole thing. Completely his right, of course. I'm across the board with the whole bodily right thing. I'm across the board with the whole you're right. But I just want to say that I definitely respect what he's doing, regardless of if you agree with it or not, your stance. And so, they like to throw around the term anti-vax a lot. So anti-vax is becoming one of those dehumanizing terms where they can say it and you're almost kind of seen as less than a human, as an anti-vaxxer. And just because you question something about the vaccine, or if you question the mandate, or if you have a problem with the mandate, you automatically become an anti-vaxxer. You all have been watching me for a while now, and you hear me speak very little on the actual vaccine itself. You know why? Because I operate off of the base operating system that I own myself. I'm freedom first. I'm freedom first. Like before anything else and everything else, I'm freedom first. And so when you start to infringe on that, then that's why I have the issue. When you start telling me what I have to do with my body and my life and what I have to inject in my body, then that's when I have the problem with. And so me, once again, talking about the actual vaccine itself, the ingredients of the vaccine, the long-term effects, the side effects, I see those things as being different rooms in my house. And by going into those conversations, I see that as me opening the door to allow police officers to inspect that room and go through and tear through the room in order to have a conversation and a debate about the ingredients. In the other room is a conversation about the side effects, and they're going through and they're debating and going through that. What I'm saying is, no, you can't look in the rooms. Matter of fact, you can't even come in the house. As a matter of fact, you can't even come onto the property. You know why? Because people all around this country seem to be having a problem answering some basic fundamental questions. And these questions actually stop you from coming on the property. They stop you from even being close to the property. And these questions are natural immunity. Is it real or is it not? Because we know over 100 million people were exposed to this virus last year, and there was no vaccine. What happened to those people? Of course, we know a large amount of those people unfortunately passed away. but a larger amount actually survived it. They have natural immunity. What do we have to say about their natural immunity? They're antibodies that you can actually test and see. Or are you going to just ignore that and say, yeah, I see you had the virus last year, you had the antibodies, but we're still going to go ahead and give you this vaccine to get the antibodies that you already have? So that's one question. The second question is, before you even think about coming on the property, is if a vaccinated person and an unvaccinated person can become infected with the virus, as well as transmit the virus, as well as have the same nasal swab viral load when infected, what is the point of the mandate? What is the point of the mandate? I mean, once again, I'll say it again, but Fauci just said it. If a vaccinated person as well as an unvaccinated person can become infected with the virus as well as transmit the virus, what is the point of the mandates? Because you're almost talking about the mandates as if we all have it, no one's going to get infected and no one's going to transmit it. It doesn't work like that. And it seems like people are operating off of that idea that it works like that. That whole conversation I just played, those folks seem like they're operating off of the idea that it works like that. That's what it seems like. So you need to answer that question as far as the purpose of mandates as it pertains to a vaccinated person still being able to get the virus and spread the virus. The third question is, does a vaccine even work? Because I thought the point of a vaccine was to protect yourself. But if you're up on stage and telling people that we are in a pandemic of the unvaccinated and that we have to protect the vaccinated from the unvaccinated, you can understand that how that might cause some confusion, because essentially what you're telling the vaccinated people is that they should be afraid of the unvaccinated people because they don't have the vaccine that you have that's supposed to provide you with protection that they don't have. And so it gets very confusing because now people wonder, like, does it work? Am I protected? I got it. I'm getting the booster, but they're still telling me to be afraid. But I thought I was good, but maybe I'm not. Like, what the hell is going on? So you all are sending out very confusing mixed signals. So the question is, does the vaccine work? And if it works, tell people the way that it works and make sure people understand that it does not work as far as preventing infection and preventing transmission. If you're going to tell them that it works as pertains to decreasing severe illness and decreasing the chances of hospitalization and decreasing the chances of death if you were actually to be infected with it and you fall into those that age range and the comorbidities, then you should tell people that. Now, to say that it prevents those things is a complete lie. You don't say that. Somebody was posting on my Facebook page saying that I should tell people, I need to tell people the full truth, which is that the vaccines prevent hospitalizations and prevent deaths. That's absolutely false. But if that is the case, you need to tell people that. And if you're going to be the government or the president who's going to bring everybody together, it would also help for you to say that publicly, that vaccinated, unvaccinated, stop fighting each other, because even if both of you are vaccinated or unvaccinated, this virus is still going to spread. But instead, you chose to say that this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated and that we have to protect the vaccinated from the unvaccinated. And so what you did was you started a gang war. The Crips and Bloods, the vax and the unvax, the mask and the mask. It's like you did this on purpose. It's like you knew what would happen. It's like you needed to. I'm not gonna do it, but I mean, I don't think these things are by accident. Like, why would you do that? Like, why would you get up there and say that, knowing that the vaccines won't stop the transmission? And then lastly, I understand that, once again, this is we've gone to this point of, we're fighting each other. You have people fighting people. You have civilians fighting civilians. You have We're fighting a fight of, you know, mask versus no mask. We're fighting a war of vaccinated versus no vaccine, mandates versus no mandates, and we're fighting each other, right? For those of us who are fighting each other, can any of you tell me where the hell this virus come from? Like, where did this thing come from? Like, how do we get into the situation? Like, how do we get to the situation where we are paying dearly for something that we don't know if it's natural? We don't know if it was created. Like, we literally don't know much about it other than it's messing up our lives. Is anybody going to answer that? It's like we really should have somebody investigate it. Oh, that's right. They did investigate it. And what did they come up with? They said, yeah, we looked and we didn't find anything. That's like sending your homie to go. But yeah, they said they looked and they couldn't find out anything. It came up inconclusive. That's interesting. So we are in the midst of a pandemic. We have hundreds and thousands of people who are dying from it. We're being locked down. You know, businesses are being affected. People's savings and livelihoods, savings account and livelihoods are being affected. People are losing their jobs. All these things are happening, and we still have no answer whatsoever as pertains to how do we get into this whole entire situation. I think that we should really work on redirecting our energy. We should really work on redirecting our energy. Why am I saying that? Because we're going to allow the bad guy to get away the same way the bad guy has always gotten away. When we look back through our history in this country and we look at all of the worst things that have taken place in this country, the tragedies, the travesties, you know, all the things you can think of. A lot of times when we look back at it, we see it as people doing certain things to people. And we see it as, you know, those people paid for it. Those people were somehow punished. And I stand on the side of, nah, you didn't get the bad guy. The bad guy got away. The bad guy always gets away. And the bad guy is about to get away in this situation right here. Who is the bad guy? Anybody have, well, in my opinion, does anybody have any idea who the bad guy is, in my opinion? And this might be a little too radical for a lot of you all, and that's cool. That's why I don't be talking about this stuff. I stick to health. I stick to diabetes and high blood pressure. But these folks talking about mandates, so I had to come out. But definitely why I don't speak on this stuff, because it does sound. Who is Adrian? You're exactly right. When we look back throughout time, yeah, I know we think it was like just regular people who created laws and rules and certain systems, but it wasn't. Like Joe Blow down the street did not come up with Jim Crow laws. He just did. Billy Bob did not come up with the black codes. He just didn't. These were government policies. The government sanctioned slavery. Like they like it was them. It was them. It's always been them creating these policies and these sanctions and then forcing the people who were the good people to abide by the policies or risk losing their jobs, business, livelihoods. And so they've always created this war. They've always created this war. They always have to have a good guy, bad guy, underclass, middle class, upper class. Like they've always created these things. Always. And this situation is no different. Vax versus unvax. Why are we fighting each other? Especially if this vaccine doesn't even stop the spread. It just doesn't. Mask versus no mask, mandates versus no mask. These are the wrong fights. Where does virus come from? Like, how are we in this situation? And the guy who's supposed to be in charge or who's the leader possibly has something to do with funding the research of gain of function. Like, how are we not getting any answers, but we're forcing Kyrie to answer about his vaccination status, but we're not going to get an answer from Fauci? Huh? Like, I wish Stephen A would take that same energy that he has with Kyrie and force an answer out of Fauci. Force an answer out of Fauci about the gain of function research. Get an answer out of him about natural immunity. Get an answer out of him about the fact that the vaccines don't stop you from getting infected, and they don't stop you from transmitting it. So what's the point of the mandates? Like, it doesn't make sense. We need to send Stephen A. Smith to question Fauci. I mean, because you have this guy, Rand Paul. I call him a Southern Belle. Like, his swag is just real Southern Bellish. He's funny to me. But Rand Paul is up there asking these questions, making these points so clear and concise that it doesn't make sense that no one's responding to him. Like, Fauci's not responding to him. Biden's not responding. Like, nobody's responding to these clear and concise and rational points that are being laid out by this medical doctor. And so, once again, it looks like it's theater. And that's why I came to the conclusion that, this is not about vaccines. This is way bigger than just vaccines. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's way bigger than vaccines. It's way bigger than just the virus. I don't know exactly what, but it's way bigger than that. I believe that, once again, I talked about in my last live stream something called Overton's window, where you have a spectrum of radical ideas and then ideas that are accepted. And the further you go down this spectrum, the more radical the idea gets. And then you suggest that radical idea, people become outraged, they push back, they fight, and then you bring down the window back a little bit closer to being accepted, but something that is unacceptable or would have been unaccepted several months before. But because you have took it all the way out there and then you settle back down with something a little bit more acceptable, people are more likely to take that. And so I believe this whole conversation about the natural immunity is going to be one of those calculated, easy wins that are given to us. Because I don't think they continue kicking the can down the road about the natural immunity. I think that's going to be a win that they just give us, but it's going to be a calculated win. And what's going to be embedded in that calculated win, I don't know, but something's going to be in it. Because if they're going to say, all right, natural immunity, it exists. And yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll respect those who have natural immunity, but we have to have a way to verify it, and we have to have a way to track it and trace it. Like, I don't know what else is going to go with it, but something else is going to go with it. Something else is going to go with it, because none of this stuff makes sense. Like, it's so bizarre a world as far as the things that are being said and the things that are being ignored. They have to be setting something up. And I think natural immunity is going to be one of those easy wins that are just given to you just so we can feel like you got to win. And then they're going to say, all right, well, since we're not going to do that, let's bring it right back down here. And how about we do this? And many of us are going to be so tired from fighting and pushing back and so relieved to get some type of win that a decent majority of us are going to stop fighting. So I just think we all have to be vigilant about that. Once again, I have no idea what's going to come with that, but it just doesn't look right. This is way more than just vaccines. It's just once again, I see a couple of you all they don't talk about the survivability rate, and you're absolutely right. Like, we should be extremely happy and celebrating the fact that 98% of people who have actually gone through this virus, the course of the virus, has actually survived, while also acknowledging the loss from those who unfortunately did not make it through. Like, we can do both ends, but they choose to only focus on the deaths over and over and over and over and over. It's like they're trying to scare you to the point of being extremely irrational in order to make decisions with the lens of fear. But in addition to that, one more thing, and I'm gonna get off. So we should really try to figure out, we should really find out who we need to question, who we need to push up against, all of us collectively. I don't care what your vax stance is or anything like that. Like, who's responsible for this whole thing that we find ourselves in? I want to talk about manufactured crises. Once again, there's a lot of things that are going on that just don't make any sense. You're in the midst of a pandemic. It's September. You're about to go into winter. You're up north, New York City, where hospitals usually become busy anyway during the regular flu season. And you're going to fire frontline workers when you're already short staffed. You're going to fire people. Okay. So be prepared to see up north, in all these places where, frontline workers were laid off, be prepared to unfortunately see a manufactured crisis, and the people have to actually pay for it, that were caused, once again, by the bad guy. Because the thing that everybody's missing when they talk about Kyrie causing this problem, and he didn't have to cause it, and the frontline workers and the nurses causing this problem, they didn't have to cause it. They didn't cause these problems. The people did not cause these problems. You caused the problems by creating these mandates for a virus that has a 98% survivability rate to get a vaccine that will not stop infection nor stop transmission, while also needing to still wear your mask regardless of your status. You created the confusion. Like, you created this whole entire chaos. Like, you did it. To blame it on Kyrie, that's illogical. To say that he's putting his team in a position, nah, the mandates put the team in a position. To say that these companies put these workers in a position, nah, the government did. They did it. They did it. So once again, you're about to go into a season where we usually see flu pick up anyway. People going to the hospital in the regular year anyway. You just fired thousands of people, healthcare workers, and you're absolutely going to have a shortage of workers. Even if you think you're going to bring in the National Guard, it's almost like this is what they want. So you just manufactured a crisis, and we're going to start seeing that in the next couple of weeks. Same thing with supply chain. Like, you all been paying attention to what's been happening with the ships not being able to dock and the lack of truckers? Yeah, supply chain issues. Manufactured by this virus that we have no idea where it came from. And who's going to pay for it? Who's going to get to pay for all this? See, the reason why we're not nationwide paying attention to all these things is because we're bickering and arguing amongst each other about vaccinated versus unvaccinated. We're bickering and arguing amongst each other about masks and social distancing. The real question is, what the hell is going on with the origins of this virus? What does Fauci know? Not only that, why do you think it makes sense to fire 70,000 plus frontline workers when we're about to go into a peak season of people being hospitalized? The ships, the supplies, the boats not being able to dock, the decrease in truckers, the whole thing from last year with the unemployment, people having to empty out their savings accounts. Like you manufactured all this, like you caused all this, and you're sitting back saying that, yo, I don't know why this happened, man. It's the unvaccinated people's fault, man. If we only got them vaccinated, these things will go away. It's not that simple. That's not even honest. It's not even close. So I need for us to all make sure that we're paying for this. We are literally paying for something we had no hand in creating. That doesn't bother y'all? Huh? Like, does that not bother you more than someone not being vaccinated? Once again, like, the people who are doubly and triply vaccinated should be the most upset, I would think. Maybe not. But once again, you did your part, right? Or so you thought. You did your part that they told you was your part, which is get vaccinated. You thought you didn't have to wear a mask. Then you found out, yeah, you still got to put in a mask. And now they're suggesting you might need to get a third shot. And you might need to do this next year and every year. These folks don't stop. And they want to give it to your kids as well. Mind you, once again, there's 78 million kids in this country. 78 million. Roughly 470 have unfortunately died. 470, roughly, out of 78 million. It's not reason to mandate a vaccine. It's just not. For a virus that doesn't impact kids, thankfully, in a negative way, I don't see the need. I don't. But hey, I could be wrong with all this. So all I'm asking you all is to think. All right, I'm asking you all to think about this. I'm asking you all to really question your stance as far as going up against each other. Whether you be vaccinated or unvaccinated, how much sense does it really make? Where can you better spend your time and your energy? Because someone needs to answer the origins of this virus. Because we're paying dearly. We're paying with our lives. Like, how much time has been lost being in fear? Like, how much time have people spent being in fear for the past year, 18 months? Like, imagine, and some of you don't have to imagine, but imagine already having a history of anxiety and depression. And this stuff happens. And you were just starting to climb out of that depression and anxiety. And so many of us lost time. Many of us lost precious hours. Many of us, had to forego certain events. Many of us lost a lot of money. Many of us, lost our jobs. Like, there's a lot of things that we lost. We lost loved ones we couldn't say bye to, all these things. And we don't have any answer whatsoever about the origins of this virus and what's going to happen about it. All we have is just tough talk towards us to get vaccinated. Like, they're really talking like the vaccine is going to solve everything. It's going to solve everything. Yeah, no. I question all that. So I'm going to go ahead and hop off, y'all. Just think about what I said. And remember, you got to do the work. All right. So, yeah, I get on here and talk about these things as far as, the vaccine mandates. And that's because I have a base operating system that I own my body. I'm liberty first. And so I have to talk about those things, because when you talk about, taking and overstepping, like, yeah, that's me. But in addition to that, we can't forget to actually take care of ourselves. All right. We can't forget to take care of ourselves. We have to do the things that are going to actually improve our health. So if you look at the coronavirus stats, you see, once again, I recommend that you all break this thing down, like you should break down any condition or disease that you may be at risk for, and look at the risk factors. Look at the modifiable risk factors and the non-modifiable risk factors. Non-modifiable risk factors are things you just cannot change. You can't change your age, you can't change your gender, you can't change your race. So these are non-modifiable risk factors. So if you see that a certain age group is affected in a certain way, and a certain sex is affected a certain way, well, these are things you can't change. So you will do yourself no good by focusing on trying to change those things, because you can't. So acknowledge the non-modifiable risk factors just to have an idea of the terrain of the battlefield, or to just have an idea of what's going on, but focus all on the non-modifiable risk factors. The modifiable risk factors. Modifiable risk factors are the things you can absolutely change. So when we look at the comorbidities of coronavirus, and we look at the correlations of those who have unfortunately died from this virus, we see that there's several comorbidities, several health conditions that are tightly aligned with mortality, morbidity from COVID-19 hospitalization. And so what I'm saying is that hypertension is definitely up there. Obesity, type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance. These are all things you can actually prevent and reverse. So you don't attack them all at once, but you need to figure out what you can do to pull yourself out of those categories. What can you do? Are you drinking water? Are you drinking soda and juice? Because soda and juice for sure will put you closer back into those categories, because you need to be pulling yourself out of those categories in order to decrease your chance of being negatively affected by this virus. So drinking soda or water would definitely put you closer to those risk factors. Eating perpetually around the clock, eating frequently, that's going to put you closer. That's going to make you insulin dominant. That's going to keep you in a insulin dominant state for the majority of the day, because you're going to continue to have insulin spikes throughout the day. Insulin is one of the jobs is to store nutrients. It's a storage hormone, meaning every time it spikes, it's in storage mode. And when you are storing, you are not going through the process that they call lipolysis, which is the breakdown of fat, which is what most people actually want. And so every time you're eating multiple times throughout the day, whether you know it or not, you're telling your body to hold on and or store food, store weight. So this means that when you're snacking, when you're drinking the soda, the juice, anything with calories in it, or just eating around the clock, you're telling your body to hold on to the weight and also gain more weight. So I recommend have your last meal at 6 p.m. You can work on it. You can practice it no later than 8 p.m., but try for 6 p.m. Don't eat anything until noon. If getting to noon is a little hard for you, then try 10. Do 10 o'clock a.m. for a couple of days and push it up to 10:30, and then 11, then 12. And what that's going to do is going to give you a 6-hour eating window, which means you're going to be fasting for 18 hours. And you can do 16-8. But the point is decrease the frequency, because that's making you insulin resistant, insulin dominant. Also, cut out the processed foods. The processed foods, they do you no good. They do you no good at all. Once again, I know you can get 2 free donuts from Krispy Kreme if you will show your vaccination card. All right. I know you can. I know it's tempting. But just think about how they're playing you with that. Like, we know without the shadow of a doubt, having high blood glucose or having uncontrolled blood sugar negatively impacts you as pertains to your immune system. Like, we know that for a fact. We're talking about up to 4 hours, your immune system is going to be compromised. These folks over here slinging donuts. The devil don't sleep, man. So, yeah, stay away from processed foods. All right. Exercise. Please don't wake up, go to work, come home, sit down, and go to sleep. Your body's designed to move. Even if you are wheelchair bound, there's a lot of exercise you can do. Just go to YouTube and find seated exercises. There's something you can do, but you need to be moving. Your body's designed to move, especially if you have a job where you're sitting down all day. I highly recommend that you're moving. This could be something walking around your block when you get home 2 or 3 times. Walking up the stairs at your office, going up, down the hallway, back down twice every 30 minutes, every 45 minutes, but you got to move. All right. All I'm asking you all to do is push back against the degeneration process. Also, stress. You got to decrease those things as much as possible. Social media, news, people, all those things. They can literally make you sick. Like we used to say, people make you sick, but they can literally make you sick. All right. Get those folks out of your life. Get them out of your life. Decrease them. Vitamin D. Vitamin D is not a vitamin, it's a hormone. And it's impossible to function at optimal level if you're vitamin D deficient. I told you I got workouts. Now I got workouts in 4 hours, roughly 4 hours. So I'm going to have to go lay down for a little bit. Vitamin D, hormone. Yes, we absolutely sell vitamin D on the website, H-BAMN.com. You can just go to the website, you'll find it. But you need to have optimal levels of vitamin D. I recommend 60. So I know a lot of times, 20 at one point was the cutoff, then you move it to 30. And now that's where it's at 30, but I definitely recommend 60. All right. Deep breathing, fresh air, go figure with the mask on. But I'm not telling you to tackle all those things at one time. Don't. Take one of those things that you feel relatively confident in doing and just do it. Do it. If you feel like you can cut out sodas and juices and drink water only, then grab that and run with it and do it. If you feel like maybe your thing is, walking every 45 minutes while you're at work, then do it. But do something. All right, do something. So that's it, y'all. It was on here much longer than I wanted to be. So I appreciate you all. Make sure to like the video, to share the video, all those stuff. If you want to support H-BAMN in any way, go check out the website and H-BAMN.com. There goes the link. Oh, it went to YouTube. I'm on YouTube. What the hell? I'm on YouTube. That's interesting. I didn't even know that. Let me put a link in there real quick, y'all. H-BAMN.com. So there goes the link. If you want to support us in any way, we have vitamin D supplements. We have blood sugar supplements. We have blood pressure supplements. We have herbal tea for blood pressure and fasting tea for fasting. We also have a book done with diabetes. And we have a lot of information as far as blogs and videos. So check those things out. All right. I mean, you should definitely check out the YouTube channel. Matter of fact, y'all do me a favor. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to get YouTube to grow. So let me just copy something real quick. And then I'm gonna let y'all be. I'm gonna leave y'all alone. Do me a favor. Here. Boom. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Come check us out over there. That's it. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. I really, really want us to do the work. I know we have what it takes, but we have to put in the work. We have to put in the work. It's one thing to, look at these issues and talk about it and push back. But trust me, you start doing the work, pushing back will become effortlessly to you because you're going to see your body of work, literally your body of work, of what you work for and the things that you have gone through and the sacrifices you've made as far as changing your diet, the sacrifices you've made as far as, not eating certain foods, the sacrifices you made as far as overcoming food addiction. And you're going to put in that work so much till you're going to get to the point where you truly like the state that you're in. And then when someone comes up with the audacity to tell you that I'm going to force you to take this thing in your body and you have no say so in it, the amount of aggression that you're going to have at the idea that somebody can force something on you when you have been in the trenches improving your health and brought yourself from that point to this point is going to be unprecedented. And so put in the work. Trust me, you'll feel very much offended by what they're suggesting right now. All right. Oh man, I appreciate it. Yo, love y'all too. I appreciate y'all. So I see you have a lot of comments. I'm going to come back through and read them in the morning. But I need to go lay down for a little bit. So, all right, y'all. I'm gonna holler at y'all later. It's our community, our responsibility. We have what it takes. We gotta put in the work. All right. Love y'all. Peace.